everyone, it's Emma here, and today I'm answering the question, will a UTI go away on its own? So I think when we ask ourselves this question, we're often wondering if there is a need for antibiotics in order to treat a UTI, a urinary tract infection, or cystitis. So medical experts have estimated that up to half of UTIs can actually be managed on their own. So that means they tend to be resolved within a few days or up to a week, perhaps with some home remedies in there to assist in this process, as we'll go on to explore. So this means that probably more than half of UTIs don't require antibiotics, which is really helpful, because we do need to be a bit conscious of antibiotic resistance these days, but of course we always need to be cautious. So just a little overview of what is actually happening when we get a UTI. So a urinary tract infection occurs when bacteria enters the urethra and then travels up into the urinary tract, and that bacteria can then reside at various points. So we have the urethra, then there's the bladder, the ureters, and the kidneys as well. So the bacteria can reside at various points along this urinary tract. And that's where they can reside, they can create inflammation, they can infect your cells and cause a bit of discomfort, and that's when you get all the symptoms as well. So this is really what's happening, and then we are relying on our bodies to respond appropriately to this. So with any invasion of bacteria or viruses or anything like that, we're really relying on our immune system to become aware of the infection, to react quickly, and then to try and kill the bacteria or virus or remove it from the body. So there is also an immune element in there that you're relying on, as well as when it comes to urinary tract infections, you've also got the kind of physical functions as well, such as going to the toilet and the liquid in your urinary tract, depending on what that is, that may be helpful or could hinder as well. So this is all the processes that we are relying on, which will then have a bearing on how quickly and effectively you are able to overcome that infection. So I'm just going to go into this in a little bit more detail in order, in light of thinking of some of the factors that potentially we could influence in order to manage UTIs a bit better on their own without the need for antibiotics. So number one on my list is to support your immune system. So we do have our standalone Echinacea drops if the immune functions are something that's high up in your priority list. So both our immune drops and our immune tablets, which I will put a link for in the description, these are licensed for the symptomatic relief of cold and flu infections by strengthening the immune system. So it might just be an area to consider. A telltale sign that your immune system needs some assistance is if you have recurrent colds and flus. So this might be something that you want to consider and add into your regime. As I've explained, we do rely on our immune system to be working properly and effectively in order to get on top of any UTIs if they are to occur. Number two on my list is to drink plenty of water. So this is a really important part of managing UTIs naturally, and as I'm sure most of you will understand, when we drink water, it flushes through from your mouth right through, eventually to your urinary tract, and then it leaves your body. So this flushing of liquid, especially nice dilute liquid, so especially if we're drinking plenty of water, so up to 2 litres daily, that keeps your urine nice and dilute, and that is less inflammatory. It creates a nicer environment for your bladder, and also just physically, that motion of going to the toilet and keeping your urinary tract flushing through can help to flush any bad bacteria out as well. Moving on, just to consider other drinks and dietary components apart from water, is sugar. So ideally we want to minimise refined sugar. Sugars can feed these bad bacteria, and that can be either in the urinary tract, throughout your digestive tract. Sugars generally act as a source of food for these bad bacteria, so we really want to try and limit refined sources, particularly refined sources which can get into your system really quickly. They don't tend to have so many helpful nutrients or fibres or anything else attached to them, so that's when processed foods can be quite detrimental because the form of the sugar isn't so helpful. But then we have other more helpful elements to consider, such as cranberry, for example. So your kind of whole fruits, cranberry being a good example, contains elements that can help to divert the bacteria. So the bacteria can almost stick to the elements of cranberry rather than your urinary tract, and become flushed out. So cranberry can be just a nice one to generally have in your routine, more so to help with the prevention of UTIs, to stop that bacteria sticking to your urinary tract in the first place. Back to whole fruits and vegetables and things that contain lots of vitamin C. Vitamin C is very protective of your cells, so again it can help to protect them from damage by bacteria, and also helps with the repair processes if your cells were to become damaged. Because with recurrent cystitis, sometimes your cells become damaged, and then they're more likely to become infected, and that can turn into quite a vicious cycle. So vitamin C can help to repair those tissues, and hopefully to be an important part of breaking that vicious cycle. Last on my list is just talking through a remedy that you can take at home. So when we're considering the need for UTIs, antibiotics, but we might feel that we need a remedy, a little step up from the usual water and cranberry juice. This is where your Uva-ursi and Echinacea would come in. So this is a licensed remedy for relieving minor urinary symptoms, such as those relating to cystitis. So it contains the Echinacea ingredient that I had previously mentioned, and also the herbal ingredient Uva-ursi, and together they are licensed to help support your urinary tract and help to relieve those symptoms. We would say that if symptoms don't improve within 7 days of taking the Uva-ursi and Echinacea, then it would be time to go to your doctor to review your need for any medications. So if your symptoms persist, or if your symptoms are very severe, then we would say to go to the doctor. So any back pain or anything that could suggest that the bacteria has travelled further up towards the kidneys, for example, then we would say to go to your doctor. So that would just be one of the small risks associated with not getting treated quickly. But as we've said, the statistics are quite favourable in many cases, that they can be treated from home in many cases. So it's just to be very aware of your symptoms, and any concerns, straight to your doctor. So I hope that helps. As always, please do leave any comments or questions in the comments below. I will add any product mentions to the description of the video. And please do also subscribe to our Avogo YouTube channel, and also hit the bell icon so you will be notified of any future videos. Thanks, take care, and speak soon.